Hi, everyone. 30 years ago, I went on my first vision quest, and I received a vision of the future for America that disturbed me. And what I'm seeing right now looks like the beginning of that vision. I'll share more about that in a minute. I also want to talk to you today a little bit about the survey that many of you took with me. At the end of 2025, in December, I mailed everyone on my list and invited you to take a conscious women's survey. Now, about 113 of you responded, so thank you so much for giving me an indication about what life is like for you. I wanted to know what you care about in our socio-political environment right now as we're going from 2025 into 2026. I know this time that we're living in to be the great awakening of sacred feminine consciousness, and I'll be happy to talk about more of that in another video. Today, I want to talk about these two different visions. I just mentioned the first one that I had and a second vision that I had. They each paint very different pictures of what the future can be, and discuss those visions in light of your responses to the survey. Now, before we get started, I want you to know in all candor, Jeff and I, my husband and I, took a flight to go back to his mother's memorial, and on the way back, I caught a virus, yikes, and it is making me sound congested. It means I have to drink a lot of water to keep my throat soothed. So I'm just going to apologize ahead of time and just know that this is important to me to share what I'm sharing today. I hope it will be important for you, and to me it's going to be worth having a little bit of honey water to keep us going together. I will be sharing those results with you and from the survey, and I want you to know why I asked you those questions. The first and most important reason is I genuinely care about you. And secondly, I work with a lot of highly sensitive people. I'm a highly sensitive person. I know what it means to be affected by everything going on around you. And I know that sometimes we need special care and support during really difficult times. Now, back to my vision quest. This vision of the future, I believe, is beginning to play out. And I want to set the stage by letting you step into the world 30 years ago, because I was about 38 years old when I had this vision, around 1996 and 1997. Now, I am not one of those people who says, oh, I know exactly what happened in different years, right? For me, there are like groupings of years. So I was around this age. And it was a really, I think, for many of us, not necessarily everyone, for many of us, it was a good period of time here in the US. Bill Clinton was president, the economy was strong, inflation was the lowest it had been in over 30 years. Hourly earnings had gone up, so many people were making more money than they had. Consumer spending was nice and strong, inflation was stable. That was the economy. Militarily, we weren't in any declared war with anyone. We were doing some peacekeeping actions in various places around the world, including Bosnia. So yes, there were bad things happening here. There were bad things happening around the world. For example, here in the US, we were still fighting for civil rights in the courts. Some other happenings. Princess Diana and Prince Charles got divorced. We saw the first cloned sheep. We had our first flip phones, for those of you who remember those, and the first Harry Potter book came out. My personal life was good. I'd had a very successful communications consulting business. I was doing really well with it, quite successful. And I had this impulse, this sense that there was something more, though, that I needed to do, but I didn't know what it was. And so I decided I was going to go on a 1-year sabbatical. Little did I know that was going to be a 10-year walkabout. During that time, actually right at the beginning of it, I said a prayer to meet a Cherokee elder who would be willing to work with me. And that was in honor of my mother, who had just crossed over. And I have no doubt her crossing stimulated my desire for this spiritual inward sabbatical. And I wanted to connect with Cherokee traditions. Because she was part Cherokee, and that was a part of our bloodline we had never explored. I was very blessed, found a Cherokee elder, and she was willing to work with me and took me on my first vision quest. Now, this was a traditional quest. This meant I was out alone on Mother Earth in a place I chose to sit for 3 to 4 days. No food, no water. It's all about connecting with nature, with spirit, as you know, spirit, and going inward into yourself. And when you are not drinking water or eating food, it pushes you inward a little bit. You're less aware of your physical body, and you become more aware of your spiritual body. And so it is a time where you can have visions, but you never know. When you get ready for a quest like that, one of the things, that we all wondered, those of us who were going out for the first time, is, will I have a vision? And what does it mean if I don't have a vision? All this fear. And once you settle into the space, there's an opportunity to connect in a deeper way in the spiritual worlds than we do day to day. That is what happened for me. I did have a vision. And actually, the quest had 3 little visions. So I'm going to walk through. The first one was really sweet. And the second one was pretty tough. And the third one showed me what that might mean for me. I have rarely shared this, rarely. When you receive a vision like this, it's up to you as the one who received it to decide whether the vision is just for you, if it is for others, and when and if it is appropriate to share, and what parts to share. So for now, I've really kind of held it close to me because part of it was disturbing. And I didn't want to plant that seed in anyone else's mind. Here in this country, yes, we have our problems. We've always had our problems. But there's a certain amount of stability that we have enjoyed. And I didn't want to disrupt that in any way. But now I think we might benefit by knowing the potential of where we're going. And I want to emphasize that word potential. It does not mean that is where everything is headed, what I'm about to share. It means it's one probability stream, and that probability stream can be shared. It can be shared, of course, but changed was the word I was looking for. Okay, so I'm going to share the first vision. This was really sweet. The first vision, I was lying on the ground, which I actually was. I was sleeping on the ground. And this beautiful native man came over and put a deer skin over me in very loving, caring way, like a brother might cover you up. To me, that symbolized loving regard for me, loving care for me, as if to say what you are going to experience next is intended to support you. Know that you are supported and you are loved, no matter what you experience. Now I suspect that's what it meant. At the time, it was simply a sweet, beautiful connection with my mother's lineage, and I was very, very grateful. The next vision shocked me. Now, the only person who can really interpret a vision is yourself, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but, meaning the person who receives the vision. But there's some elements here that might be useful to know how important this moment in time really is and how important our actions today matter. Now, if you're in a deep, deep healing space emotionally, and it's like, Misa, I can't handle anything that's going to be disturbing, that's okay. Scroll ahead. Listen for where I'm talking about 500 years from now, because that vision is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And you might want to hear that and learn more about that. If you're in a place where you're saying, I want to know what could be coming, and I want to have some ideas about what I could be doing right now, then I will give you a brief synopsis of the vision, but I'm not going to go into gory details, okay? I'm not going to go that deep in. I hold those. That's my responsibility. I hold those. But for you, a sense of where we're going. Okay. In America, what I saw is that white men were in control. And with that control came the return of slavery and extreme abuse of LGBTQ plus community and people of color. Women were treated very badly and had very few rights. That's basically it, which is horrendous. I would call this distorted masculine energy. It's masculine energy that wants to be in control, but without love. Without love for self and without love for other. Now, the next vision I had was an indication of the center point, kind of how this all gets started, and the sacred mission that I have, that I believe I'm living right now. And just see if any of this resonates with you. I was sitting outside the US Capitol with a person I deeply respect, who is a psychologist. And we were metaphorically and symbolically, remember, I'm the only one who can really interpret it, so without going into a lot of detail, we were cleaning up the mess of Washington, D.C., the Capitol. And we represented together new life emotionally and spiritually. So cleaning up the mess to welcome new life emotionally and spiritually. What I see is the beginning of that vision happening now. That's why I wanted to share this vision with you in the video today. I'm seeing it in the terrible treatment of our immigrants, convicts, convicted or not. I absolutely believe, and I used to do contract work with the Department of Corrections, every individual needs and deserves to be treated with respect, absolute respect. Seeing the racial profiling that's happening with people of color. This has always gone on subtly at some level in this country, but really, really expanded now. Terrifically expanded with our ICE agents and our Border Patrol agents coming in and racially profiling people in church, in the grocery store, in the schools, in their breaking doors and going into their homes without search warrants from a judge. And picking up all kinds of people of color simply because they are people of color. I'm watching this reducing of women's access to scholarships, and it's got me on high alert. All of this does. You may or may not know the Department of Education decided there are certain professions that are no longer considered professional, and therefore that reduces access to scholarships. And these professions are ones that women are often interested in. Things like physical therapy, like teaching, like nursing, like becoming veterinarians, right? So not so many scholarships available to women. Looking at what's being proposed in terms of voting, that unless you have your birth certificate or a passport, that counts as proof of citizenship, you will be denied access to voting. That hasn't happened yet. It's in discussion in the Senate, I understand right now, not likely to pass. But the fact that it's being considered at all is disturbing when you consider that there are many, many people in our country who have no need for a passport. They're not planning to travel overseas. And we have many women whose married name doesn't match their birth certificate name. So if it doesn't match up and that's the only ID you have, I believe the estimate, don't quote me on this, I believe the estimate is this could potentially eliminate 20 million people from voting, the vast majority of which would be women. I'm seeing the removal of reproductive rights. Now hang in there with me. I know we all have different viewpoints about reproductive rights. What concerns me is the total ban on abortions that creates a potential health risk or life risk for women. There was a woman in a state, there are 9 states that have total bans right now. There was a woman in one of those states that the fetus had died in her womb, and she was not able to get life-saving abortion of a fetus that had already died, and she died of infection. That's too extreme for me. That speaks to a lack of respect and regard for women and their reproductive rights and their right to their own life and health. Some of you know that since this survey, we've even seen American citizens on videos taken, right, on people's telephones, citizens being seriously injured and even killed by federal agents. We're seeing people who are peacefully protesting and journalists, or even people just simply driving to another destination caught in the middle of Border Patrol and ICE agents stopping cars to see who's inside, see if there's anybody that they're intending to take into detention. People simply driving from one place to another, taken into custody and into detention centers around this country. I want us just to keep in mind for a moment that they're not getting a moment to take care of themselves. I have certain herbs I need to take to maintain good standard of health. You may be someone who's on medication for a good standard of health. You may be an individual, these individuals who are taken who they're living in a warm climate and they're taken to a freezing cold climate, not even a moment to be able to get what they need. All right, well, there's a whole nother layer of this that I think is even worse. We'll get to that. So people coming out of these different centers where they're being held are describing absolutely deplorable conditions. People are being seriously injured, as in need to go to the hospital, can't get to the hospital injured. Broken teeth. We're seeing people with gunshot wounds from agents being taken to detention centers and then have to be taken to the hospital to get assistance. It's poor sleeping conditions, lights on all the time, no privacy at all, even for taking care of their bathroom needs. Waiting in line for an hour or two to have food that's terrible food. It goes on and on. These are not even at reasonable standards for the Department of Corrections, and those aren't necessarily really great standards. So I want us to get some perspective about this. These are serious injuries. You may or may not know that 36 people have died in the detention centers since January of 2025. People who have come out have told us that They weren't even allowed to make a phone call for up to weeks or months, if ever at all, to let someone know where they are or to call their attorney. So their families were not, especially at the beginning, had no notice of where they were. They are not allowed legal due process. They are not allowed legal due process. This is really significant because up until now, that was done with legal due process. And in case you don't know and haven't seen the statistics, 70% of people in ICE detention facilities are U.S. citizens and legal immigrants. I've seen statistics that would say up to 95% of the people, even if they are illegal immigrants, they are in the system, but their paperwork hasn't shown up. They had a parking violation. They were picked up for that. They, or their data, they've mailed in the information and didn't make it to the computer systems yet, or they're being picked up in court at their hearings. So really, what the statistics have been showing us is that only about 5% of the people detained are actual criminals or have committed what is considered a legally criminal act. Legally criminal, not just because you're an immigrant who isn't as current as people think you should, as agents think you should be. There's a difference here. And so we're seeing citizens, people in the process, legal aliens, being treated in terribly substandard conditions, dehumanizing conditions. So I would invite us to be aware of this, just see if it resonates with you, that where I saw us potentially going in this vision, see if that resonates with you, that it might actually be in process now. And I absolutely invite you, check the statistics, check your own statistics, check them twice, check them from different sources. And if you choose, if you can hold that space to be aware of what people are experiencing, to make a decision for yourself. Is this the world you want to live in? Is this the country that you want to see this kind of behavior happening in? Do you want this happening in your homeland? If you're not from the U.S., what's happening in your country that you find acceptable and good and unacceptable? And where is that energy taking your country? For 30 years, I have tried to keep my emotional spiritual service quite separate from politics. But seeing the beginning of this vision happening, it just doesn't feel okay to keep that vision to myself anymore. I think that vision was given to me knowing that I could hold it for us until a time when many more of us might want to know where this could potentially go. And could is an important word here. Not all visions are fulfilled. Seeing a vision does not mean it is going to happen. It means there's a probability that it could. And within every vision, there's an opportunity to change it. There are actions we can take, steps we can take that change that probability and turn it around. Knowing where it's headed is useful in inspiring us to take action before it gets worse. Now, as a highly sensitive person, if you're like me, this can be a really challenging time. And that's why I sent the survey out. And thank you to the 113 of you that responded. Thank you, because it gave me a sense of what is happening for you. And it does give me some ideas. And you can add to those ideas about how we can support each other during this really challenging time. Now, before I share this, I want you to know that there is no right answer. None. None. If you've been experiencing this particular time as disturbing for you, you're feeling your own anxiety come up, you're being triggered, that means that trauma, right, is trauma from your past is being triggered now. That's important to notice. If you're kind of cruising through this and saying, yes, I see it, but I'm not feeling overwhelmed by it, I'm not emotionally triggered, that also is saying something about what you may want to consider is your role right now at this time in history when sacred feminine energy is trying to emerge and meeting its resistance. Control over is the resistance to feminine energy. All right, here's the first question. I think it's the foundation for everything that we're discussing today and in the future. Here's the question. When you pay attention to the current events, how do you most often feel in your body and nervous system? Remember, there's no right answer, okay? No right answer. You're just being self-honest with you. 41% said you are aware, but stable or calm and grounded. 59% of you said you were angry, frustrated, in grief or heartbroken, anxious, overwhelmed, re-traumatized, numb, or disconnected. So here's something that I see. If you're feeling stable and grounded, you might ask yourself, how can I bring this stableness, this groundedness, my higher consciousness and love for myself and humanity into the world? How may I be of service right now? If you're feeling emotionally triggered, this might be a childhood trauma that's getting triggered, an ancestral trigger. It's deeply personal for you. So you might ask yourself, how can I heal the emotional trauma in me? And knowing that in doing that, I am also contributing to ending trauma in the world. Visions are only probabilities. So what can we do? Well, one of the things we can do is embrace a new vision. And I was in ceremony a few years ago, and I was taken into this gorgeous vision of 500 years from now, and it made me happy. And I'm hoping that it might inspire you as well to imagine the future you would want 500 years from now, or maybe sooner. All right, in my vision, there's no war, no hunger, no poverty. The basic needs of people throughout the world are taken care of. And people live in a supportive way with each other, across nations and even in communities. I peered down into a community, I'm flying over it, here in the US, and instead of all the blocks that we live on, right, the streets running north, south, east, west, or whatever directions they're going, but in those blocks, the communities are now circular. So think of a big rim of houses, and inside the center, all the backyards are facing out to a park or park-like setting where there are trees and there is play equipment for the kids. Next, I'm flying over a hospital. Flying dreams are so fun. And I'm diving down into a hospital room, and there's a woman in a hospital bed. She's lost at least her little finger. There may have been one or two others missing. And I'm watching her finger grow back. They know how to grow new body parts. And their emotions and their thoughts are so well regulated, and their beliefs, so well regulated, meaning harmonized, that They are telepathic. And I saw an example of this, so sweet. I'm looking at this ice skating pond, and a woman is sitting on a bench holding her skates. She's very depressed. She's really wondering about her life and who she is. At those deep levels, you know what I mean, that deep inward look like, oh, things are not working the way I want them to. And this young man walks up, he's carrying his skates in his hands, and he hears her. And he goes up to her and he says, you could think that, or you could come skate with me. It was such a beautiful, gentle interaction. He wasn't in any way trying to get her to not feel what she was feeling. He was suggesting that he could be there and she could, with her, and she could choose a different way of being, a way of thinking and way of feeling if she wanted to. So beautiful, so beautiful. What if we started creating that now, right now? How would we do that from where we are in our own countries right now? Well, let me give you some ideas and see if any of these resonate for you. And feel free under the video to write your own ideas. How could we create that beautiful vision? Perhaps one of the things we could do is really take a stand for what we want, right? Personally, for our communities, for our government, for our countries. What do we want? We might make an effort to help our neighbors a little bit more. What are the ways that we might be doing that right now? We might want to consider creating nonviolent change. And that means peacefully protesting. If you haven't heard of the 3.5% rule, hear me out. I know protests for some of us feel like the right thing to do. For others, like, oh, I don't know. It might be a thing where you don't feel safe. You might want to check into your inner yes and inner no when you think about a protest and see what's right for you. When it's right, what's safe for you? What's safe? Feel the inner yes, the inner no, so that you can take action in your life. So the 3.5% rule, let's come back to that. Erica Chenoweth and her colleague Maria Stephan got together. By the way, Erica Chenoweth is from Harvard Kennedy School. And they together analyzed hundreds of nonviolent and violent campaigns between 1900 and 2006. What they found is this: when 3.5% of the population engages in sustained and active nonviolent protests, people create nonviolent change. Here's something I thought was absolutely fascinating. When it was 3.5% of the population, it never failed. Meaning 3.5% or more of the population in peaceful protest, it always worked. And I love this next piece. It was 2 times more likely to succeed when it was non-violent. Now, how many people is that? Yeah, it's a few people. So, by the way, this is the exact methodology that was used with the Marco regime in the Philippines. They engaged in prayer meetings, meditations, and nonviolent protests. Yep, that's what they did. So I'll tell you what it is in the U.S., whatever country you live in, you might want to check it out. Find out how many people that takes. So No King's Rally started out somewhere in a few million, 3.5, 4 million, something like that. The latest No King's Rally was up to 7 million people. And 3.5% of our population is 12 million people. 12 million people. So consider on March 28th whether this is something that you get an inner yes for, an inner yes to that going and being safe will be okay for you, and join that march to get our numbers up. And then, of course, we need to sustain it in order to see peaceful resolution, which is the prayer I hold in my heart. Peaceful resolution. Now, I know I've heard from some of you and you're saying, yes, but we should be standing for what we want, not what we don't want. And No Kings is clearly saying what we don't want. I get it. I really do. And theoretically, I agree with you. And in most areas of my life, I'm right there with you. I'm focused on what I do want. Let me offer this, though, as an idea, as a consideration. Personally, and you have to decide where you are with this, personally, I would rather make sure we have 10, excuse me, get my numbers straight here. I would rather be part of the 12 million taking a stand, a clear, visible stand for peaceful transformation in my heart, but be part of the 12 million. Take a sign that says, I believe in legal due process. I believe in the Constitution and its protections. I believe in the fair treatment of all people. Whatever it is that you are for, that can be in your heart, that can be in a sign that you create. And by joining together in peaceful protest, we are making a very, very clear statement that we want a different reality than the one we're living in now. So consider that if that's an appropriate action for you to take. Another idea, we can refrain from shaming and blaming other people. We're seeing that, right, in our political landscape, like it's okay and normal. It's not. Shaming and blaming is dehumanizing. Remember, dehumanizing is what takes us to these extremes in terms of how we treat people. It starts in that shaming and blaming. So we can really catch ourselves when we're starting to shame or blame someone else and get it turned around really fast. And with ourselves, to maybe do a little less shaming and blaming of ourselves. What else can we do? Well, if you're part of the 59% of people who took the survey, or you would align with them, who are feeling the trauma of what's happening, you may have some sacred inner work to do. This might be the perfect time to say, okay, I've got to do it now. I need to do this for myself so that I can feel more at peace in myself and I can be the center, in the center, quiet, still part, right, of that storm. I deserve that. That would be a beautiful way to contribute to the healing of trauma on the planet. You might be part of the 41% feeling grounded and okay right now. You might have some leadership to provide. It might be time for you to be of service to others who are not feeling as grounded or as okay, able to navigate what's happening. We're not powerless. We can remind ourselves and the people around us to keep living from compassion. When someone is abused, we all know in our heart of hearts that could be us. And in our most spiritual center, to remember there are no others. We are all of divine origin and born from love. We may forget it, we may act out, we may act as though there are others as we act out our own emotional traumas. But at the core of our spiritual beings, we're all divine. We have all experienced moments of trauma that are getting played out, and this is our moment to allow the trauma to heal and to remember we are born from love. If your nervous system is on high alert right now and you need some support, look down below the video. You can download my free holding meditation. This is a 2,000-year-old meditation for women that helps us regulate our emotions and our nervous systems. And by the way, it also works well for men as well. And it's free, so please don't hesitate to go get that recording and use it daily as a way to help yourself stay in that regulated inner peace with a calm nervous system. Most of all, thank you. Thank you for being here, for being you, for being here at this time in our history with your beautiful, precious heart and all the love that you have to share, that our planet needs right now, humanity needs, and the ways in which you remain in self-love so that you have the resiliency to love others. And I'll see you again with more about this time in our history, the sacred feminine and its awakening on our planet right now, and our 2026 survey. Thank you all. So much love to you.